Hello class, this is lesson 9 of unit 1 and we are continuing working on rounding numbers. Specifically this lesson we will not be using a number line. We are still going to use a concept we worked on a few days ago where we were finding the midpoint of two numbers, but we're not drawing a vertical number line like we had been doing where we were going That's all done. So this first question asks us, between what two thousands is 4,333? Well, what's in the thousand spot? 4. So that's always going to be your baseline number. What is between it? So it's between 4,000 and what is the next thousand up? 5,000. I do apologize if the plane flying overhead is in the video. So between what two thousands is 4,333? Okay, so then what's the midpoint? Well, remember we had talked about the midpoint always having a 5. It was half of the 10, right? Half of the 1,500. So between these two would be 4,500, 4,500. Is 4,333 less than the midpoint or greater than the midpoint? No, it's less than because it's 4,333. So that would be over here somewhere. Therefore, 4,333 rounded to the nearest thousand would be 4,000. Oops, wrong color. And guys, one piece of terminology you're going to be seeing, or a symbol you're going to be seeing the next few days, is this piece right here. It's these weird little squiggly lines, and that is a symbol for approximation. If I ask you for an approximation, I'm just asking you for a close to area. If I say approximately, where do you live, Mr. Royans? I live in Mishawaka on Main Street. I'm not giving you my exact address, I'm just giving you an approximation. So this number here, 4,333, it's close to 4,000. Close enough. Depends on where we're rounding to, I guess. So if we're rounding the nearest 1,000, it's close to that. But if we were rounding the nearest 100, but we'll get to that later. Between what two thousands is 18,500 or 753? Well, what two thousands? What's in the thousand spot here? 8. So your baseline number is going to be 18,000. And then it's always going up by 1,000. That's the two thousands it's in between. So that would be 19,000. And what's our halfway point? Well, it's going to be 18,000 what? Hopefully you at home you said 500. Because everything we've dealt with, half of anything with a 0 at the end is going to be 5, and then the same amount of zeros. All right, where does 18,753 fall amongst these three numbers? Is it greater than the halfway point, or is it less than the halfway point? Well, I can tell you right now it's got a 7 right there, so it's greater than 500 because it's 700. So that would mean we round it up to the nearest 1,000. It would be 19,000. Use that approximate symbol again. Approximately 19,000. Okay. And then we're doing it with a 6-digit number this time, and this number is 346,560. Between what two thousands is this number? Well, what's in the thousand spot? 6. So it's going to be 346,000. And find what would be 1,000 up from 6, 7, so it would be 347,000. And then the midpoint would be, kind of do a carry here so I can get the whole number, 346,500. Now they're trying to get super close to the midpoint here to trick you, but hopefully you've been paying attention to the last few lessons and you can easily realize or understand that 560, even though there's a 5 there and a 5 there, we have the 6 in the 10 spot. That 6 will be greater than 0, so it's going to fall on this side of the halfway point, which would mean we are rounding it up because it is closer to 347,000. It's 346,560 is approximately 347,000 when we round up to the nearest thousand. You guys see how it's similar to using the vertical number line, except we're not working within the confines of that number line. We are just looking at the two numbers, identifying our quick midpoint, and then saying, hey, that works. But use the previous lesson on 5 or more, raise the score. Just find the place value where it's asking you to go, guys. I think that's far easier. Okay, and then this part of the lesson is asking us to find or round to the nearest 10,000 or 100,000. So we're going to round to the nearest 10,000 here, but first it's asking us to find out between what two 10,000s is 65,600. Well, we need to look at what's in the 10,000 spot. Ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s. It's 6. And since it's 10,000, it's going to be 6 10,000s or 60,000. And then you're just going up one spot or one number to 70,000. And voila. What's the midpoint there? It's going to be 65. 5. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Scratch that, it's just going to be 65,000. So we're dealing with 10,000s now. My bad. So that's going to be 65,000 as the halfway point because we're dealing with 10,000s now, and 5,000 is half of 10,000. So where does 65,6 fall on this? It falls on this side right here because we have 6 in the 100 spot. That would make it greater than. So 65,600 is rounded to the nearest 10,000 is approximately 70,000. Gotta think of me using thousands there, guys. Okay. And now this one is using a 6-digit number, but we're still working with 10,000s. So we look at it, between what two 10,000s is this number? Well, what's in our 10,000 spot? 4. So it's going to be 540,000. And then what's the next 10,000 up? Well, you're going to keep the 5 there in the 100,000 spot. Our 10,000s number is going to go up to 5. So that's going to make it 550,000. What's the halfway point there? Well, what's halfway between 40 and 50? That's going to be 45. So 545,000. Bam. Now we're rounding this up to 10,000s. Where does 548,000 fall amongst these three numbers? Well, I'll tell you 8 is greater than 5, so it's going to fall over here, closer to this number, so that would make 548,253 rounded to the nearest 10,000, approximately 550,000. look at this. We're not even worried about finding the 200,000s. We're just simply looking at this and applying what we know. 676,000 rounded to the nearest 100,000 is what? We have 6 in our 100,000 spot. What's next to it? 7. 5 or more raise the score, so that would make that 6 go up to 7. And remember, everything after the place value you're rounding up or leaving alone becomes a 0. So 676,000 rounded to the nearest 100,000 becomes approximately 700,000. Let's take a look at this one here though, guys. 203,301 rounded to the nearest 100,000. Oh, what's in the 100,000 spot? 2. I like to draw my little line between the number that I'm going to be either rounding up or letting it rest. What's the number next door? What's knocking on the door? 0. 5 or more, raise the score. 4 or less, let it rest. 0 is way less than 4, so that means you're letting the 2 rest. And that 2 will become, or 203,000 will become 200,000. Remember, the important thing, and we talked about this yesterday, is every number after the place value you're rounding up or leaving alone, every number after that, after you completed your rounding, becomes a 0. So we are rounding the 2, or we're leaving it there, or we're going to round it up. And our final answer, everything after that place value, is 0. And one last example. 147,591 to the nearest that 100,000. Well, I like to write it so you guys can see it a little bigger. 147,591. What is in the 100,000 spot? 1. What's next door? It is a 4. 4 or less, let that bad boy rest. Therefore, we're leaving the 1 the same. Every number after the place value we are rounding becomes 0. And then this is the problem set you guys will be given. It's pretty self-explanatory. I might go over a couple of these real quick. Let's look at letter A here. 5,300 rounded to the nearest 1,000. We have 5, 300. Nearest 1,000, 5 is in the 1,000 spot. 3 is next to it. 3 is less than 4. Therefore, 5,300 to the nearest 1,000 is just 5,000. 10,000, you're number 2. Same thing, you're identifying the place value. If I look at letter A, actually, let's look at something a little more challenging. Let's look at letter B on number 2. That says 34,920. Rounded to the nearest 10,000. Well, you need to hopefully have a good understanding. Remember your place value. 1s, 10s, 100s, 1000s, 10,000. What's in the 10,000 spot here? 3. What is next to the spot we're rounding? It's a 4. 4 or less, let it rest. So that 3 is resting. It's staying there as a 3. Every number after the spot or the place value we're rounding becomes a 0. Then the last one I want to go over with you guys is we are going to start working with real-world applications of rounding. So that means, and you're going to groan at this one, but there's going to be some word problems. And I want to go over some of these word problems here in this lesson to get us ready and primed for tomorrow's lesson. And this says, solve the following problems using pictures, numbers, and words. Whatever helps you solve a word problem. Read, draw, write. And it says the 2012 Super Bowl had an attendance of just 68,658 people. If the headline in the newspaper the next day read, about 70,000 people attend Super Bowl, how did the newspaper round to estimate the total number of people in attendance? Well, let's look at it. It says, had an attendance of just 68,500 or 658 people. I don't know if that's a true statement. I'd have to look at the 2012 Super Bowl. I don't even remember who was in that Super Bowl. Anyway, if the headline in the newspaper the next day says about 70,000 people attend the Super Bowl, how did they round to estimate the number? Well, that's the number of people that were there. That's the exact number. There were that many people there. There were 68,658 people at that Super Bowl. The newspaper says the next day about 70,000 attend the Super Bowl. How did they round? Did they round to the nearest 10? No. Or nearest 1, nearest 10? No. Nearest 100? No. Nearest 1,000? Let's see. That could be a possibility. Let's examine it. If we're rounding the nearest 1,000, that would make 69,000, because we have a 6 here, and the 8 would go up because of the 6. That's not 70,000. So what did they round up? It seems to me they rounded up to the nearest 10,000 because we have a 6 there. There's an 8 next to it. 8 is greater than 5, so we are raising that score. We are raising the 6 up to 70,000. All right. So give these word problems a try, a shot, and see what you come up with. Use read, draw, write, underline whatever important words you may, or whatever words you may think are important, helping you solve the problem. Okay? Good luck, guys. Royans out.